Hey, what's going on, y'all? So for the first few minutes of this video, I'm gonna be talking about something that I think is extremely important. And if you're not interested in hearing about it, you can skip forward about 3 or 4 minutes. I'll try to put a timestamp on here if I remember. Anyway, so for those of you who are still here, I know some people have likely gotten the wrong impression about this channel, and I don't blame you if you have. Most of the videos cover that vegan teacher, but some people probably understand what others might not, is that the main reason that I do that is to consistently dispel misinformation and vegan propaganda, right? I know that for some of you that probably sounds obvious, but it's much deeper than that, much more important than that. Why do I do that? Why do I care about dispelling vegan propaganda and horseshit? Well, it's because the vegan movement has been a detriment on animal welfare, on people's opinion of animal welfare, and their willingness to do anything to help animals. In fact, they have set us back quite a lot because of their belligerent protests, their demonizing of non-vegans, making your everyday person want to stay as far away from veganism as possible. In fact, so many people have gone to the opposite side of the spectrum, like carnivore diets, and people have completely detached themselves from the humanity of animal agriculture and husbandry entirely. They've completely detached themselves from the animals in the slaughterhouses and the food on their plates. And a big part of that is because of the vegan movement. People built up this widespread fatigue, this I'm so sick of being compared to Hitler while they take a shit on my face. You know, that you get tired of that after some time. And I don't blame anybody that has, right? Veganism as a movement has been catastrophic for animals all across the country, all across the globe, if we're being completely honest. We have literally only seen the sales of animal products go up and up and up and up, and demand increase more and more as the whole veganism fad died out. So the truth is, people didn't go vegan because they cared about animals. Most people went vegan because it was something new, exciting, and they thought they could lose weight. A lot of people did it because they're like, this is healthy, I'm gonna lose weight. And then when they later learned that they were tired, didn't have energy, didn't feel good because they were eating Oreos and Cheetos all the time, and they weren't losing weight, they're like, wait, this veganism thing sucks, I'm done with it. Right? And since then, the movement has been nothing but a joke. Now, I've mentioned in previous videos that I want to actually address something because it's not like what's going on in the meat and dairy industry isn't something that people should look at, especially in factory farms. And most people do care about animals, at least to some degree, but they're willing to, suspend any moral or ethical concern for them because, well, we need to eat meat, and I 100% agree with that. What I don't agree with necessarily is that we shouldn't care at all, that the atrocities that do happen to animals, because we all know, everybody watching this video has likely seen the type of atrocities that do happen to animals in many factory farming settings. And even if it's not the traditional scares of just absolute injustice of these animals being treated like garbage, abused, attacked, killed without being put out first, like knocked out or things like that, all that graphic stuff, I won't get into details. We all know that these animals could be treated a lot better, and especially in Western culture where we overconsume like crazy. Gosh, do we love our meat, especially in the United States of America. We are unbelievably wasteful, and we only treat animals like products, nothing more, just products. And I am of the belief that, contrary to what some of you might believe, that animals should not be treated as just products. I think there is a solution out there that is not veganism. Veganism is not a solution. It never has been. It makes no sense. Humans are omnivores. It is necessary for the vast majority of people to consume meat to be fully healthy and live a long, beautiful, wonderful life. Cutting that out puts a lot of people's health at risk. And it's also just not practical at all. Most people don't want to do that. And if people don't want to do it, they won't do it. It's that simple. And it's something that many vegans have yet to realize, though a few kind of starting to get there, like Earthling Ed, for instance, but I'll talk about that in more detail later. So what I am proposing is that we start a new movement, doesn't need to have a name right now. Somebody suggested like omnism or something in honor of me, I guess, but and the idea of, being an omnivore. And it's a push for reducing overconsumption, because overconsumption is a problem for more reasons than just the animals not being able to get big enough spaces, but that is a major issue. I'll just give you guys kind of a perspective, right? If we were able to reduce the demand for meat by like 50%, which means you reduce the demand for animals themselves for about 50%, which means that you have more area to work with for animals, right? Because one of the biggest issues with factory farms is that the animals are literally just stacked in together like sardines and can't even move a muscle for most of their lives, and it's horrendous. It's horrible. Most people watching this would likely agree that animals that are allowed to exist on free range farms and things like that are like, we're fine with that, like we're cool with that. Most of us would agree. The only problem is free range farms like that are genuinely free range, where the animals actually get to move around and not be confined to small spaces for 99% of their lives. They're unbelievably rare. You know, we like to act like local farms and things like that are so influential when they're not. They are the minority by a long shot. But what reducing consumption of animals, because we do overconsume, would do is actually make things like free range farms more accessible. You take the demand away from the factory farms, give some of the demand back to these local farms where animals are actually able to roam freely and have access to the outside world more frequently and have better overall lives. Many people could get behind that. The vegans, for some reason, probably would still cry about it, but honestly, we don't give a fuck about them. Just how most of them don't actually care about animals. It's all about self-righteousness and sniffing their own farts. Anyway, I'll talk more about this whole thing in a more specific video sometime soon this week. Let's get on to Vegan Teacher. We're going to kind of continue a little bit of this conversation because she's addressing us carnists. She's got questions that she is answering about carnists, I guess. So naturally, of course, she's going to open up with the racism segment, just as you'd expect. She just loves to flex this doll. Like, she's so proud of being a piece of shit. It is remarkable.
Young age that it's okay to eat pigs, but not cats or dogs. Speciesism is the first form of racism. Racism and speciesism are both wrong. We teach our children at a young age that it's okay to eat pigs, but not cats or dogs. Why is that? That's...
Ooh, pick me for this one. Actually, I have an answer to this. The reason why it is okay to eat like cows and pigs and chickens and not dogs and cat is because we bred these animals for consumption. They are literally bred to be consumed. I know, sounds terrible and sad, but welcome to reality. This is the world we live in. Cats and dogs were bred to be companions. It's really not rocket science. I don't know. She's come across this many times. I know she watches my videos, so she's probably heard me explain this, but for some reason, her like 17 IQ vegan brain still can't quite grasp it yet. And I don't think it ever will. I think the days of her being able to interpret and understand anything, so any cognitive ability at all, are way behind her. They're probably gone since the day she decided to be vegan, if we're being honest.
Speciesism. If you know in your heart that you really don't want to hurt them, then you can be vegan. And you could start now. I'll show you how. Meatheads say, number one,
Meatheads.
carnists say, but lions eat animals, so why can't I? Vegans respond, you aren't a lion. Lions don't have a choice. They don't have moral agency, but you do. Lions also kill animals with their own claws and eat them raw.
All right, I'm gonna just cut her off here. So I've heard this argument from her a couple of times. Basically, what it sums up to is, well, you don't have claws and you don't kill the animals yourselves. Bruh, it's because humans have their own adaptation. So the reason that lions have claws and powerful jaws and sharp teeth is because evolution chose that path for them, right? For humans, you know, we originally evolved from apes, right? And let's go back to then, right? When, you know, before humans were humans and we were just apes, right? Chimpanzees, basically. What do chimpanzees have? They have claws. They have pretty sharp teeth. They have very powerful arms and things like that. And they are mostly herbivorous. They do still consume meat as well, right? They don't have the same setup as a tiger, right? But they are still equipped with powerful weapons that allow them to kill animals and consume them. We evolved bipedal motion, right? Because we kept walking and walking and walking, and our brains just kept developing. We kept getting smarter, more tactical for hunting prey. When we learned how to use tools, the need for claws and sharp teeth disappeared entirely, because now we had a long extension called a spear and other things like that that we could use in place of it. because intelligence overruled our need for primal characteristics. Now, even the chimps learned how to use tools. I mean, that's kind of how we ended up where we were. So we kept evolving our tools, just how other animals evolve other aspects of their physical abilities. We kept evolving our brain, which allowed us to use better tools, stronger tools. And that's kind of what factory farms and local farms has become. It's just our usage of tools expanded. It's very, very simple. Like, this is kind of elementary stuff. Don't know why many of these vegans don't understand that. So using this argument makes no sense. Humans used to eat meat raw, actually. In fact, you still can eat a lot of meat raw. It's a little risky, just how it's also still risky for many animals too. They can still get parasites and things like that that kill them. In fact, humans have among some of the most acidic stomachs in the animal kingdom. We are up there with traditional carnivores and how acidic our stomachs are. So in fact, we are designed to eat meat, even raw. It's just that cooked meat is better. So why wouldn't we always choose the better option? I mean, Liver King always eats raw meat, and that man's still alive today. I mean, he might have brain worms, but he's still alive today, and he eats raw meat. So this argument is completely worthless.
My dad says I need meat to be strong. Are you smarter than him? Vegans respond, yes. Your father may know lots of things, but in this area he's wrong. The latest research has once again confirmed that meat is linked to cancer, stroke.
All right, you know I gotta chime in here. We're on to this question, the cancer linkage and the health stuff. This is where I shine. I shine in a lot of places when it comes to vegan bullshit, I mean, to be honest. But this is one of my favorite things to talk about, is like the health stuff. First off, she's not completely wrong, right? Red meats especially can increase your risk for certain types of cancer. That is true. Doesn't apply to things like poultry or fish, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, you are not smarter than this person's dad. In fact, children especially should be consuming meat in their diets, a decent amount of it, because meat is so nutrient dense. There is nothing a child wants more than a nutrient dense meal, except maybe like a new Lego pack or like TikTok. But besides that, as far as like their body goes, nutrient dense is the way to go. I mean, that's another reason why milk is like so prominent in schools early on and things like that. I mean, some people are lactose intolerant, like I was, so I couldn't have milk. But generally speaking, like milk is great because it's so nutrient dense. I, as a child, my family was pretty poor, so we didn't always have food on the table. But when we did, it was always very nutrient dense food. And if it wasn't for that, I don't think I would have made it through my childhood, at least not as the same person. I think I probably would have had some issues with my body, my brain, things like that. Because if you deprive a growing child of nutrients, you open a dangerous, dangerous can of worms that could literally leave them as a vegetable if not handled properly. Raising kids vegan is dangerous. It is not recommended by 99% of dietitians. Is it possible? It can be, depending on how acceptable plant nutrients and things are to your growing kid's body, but it's a risk that no parent should be willing to take. Like, you can sign up for the military, right? And chances are you won't see combat. But hey, you never know. And honestly, the risk is even much worse than that, because most parents are not capable of giving their child everything they need on a vegan diet, because every kid's needs are going to vary significantly. So unless you have a professional dietitian in your corner 24/7, which realistically most people don't have access to that, you are not going to be successful in making sure that your kid has everything that they need, especially if they have underlying issues that you can't detect on your own, or maybe they don't process iron from plants well, or they can't get vitamin A from plants. And then you end up with a kid who goes blind, which is something that I've actually talked about in the past on this channel. Multiple kids who have gone blind because of vitamin A deficiency because of vegan diets. There's a whole world of risks and really dangerous possibilities. Do not risk your child's safety on that. It is never worth it. Veganism is never worth that. It is not worth your child's life, future, safety, anything of the sort. Because once you subject them to that damage, most of the time it cannot be undone, and you've ruined their lives.
Respond to ridiculous things meatheads say. Card number 3. Carnists say, but my priest said that God created animals for us to eat. Shouldn't I respect what he says? Vegans respond, no. Your priest, like many religious leaders, is a massive hypocrite. He's
Oh
completely
my
ignoring the
God.
10 Commandments, which clearly say, "Thou shalt not kill, and thou shalt not steal."
All right, I'm gonna cut the dumb witch off here. Which reminds me, speaking of dumb witches, yo, get out, guys. There's nothing scarier than a vegan Halloween merch with the vegan witch right here. Now, contrary to popular belief, this is not technically the vegan teacher. It is an archetype meant to simply represent a vegan witch who looks strikingly similar to Miss Katie. You can buy one of these bad boys, okay? You can buy one of these bad boys. I know you can probably barely hear me up here. It's kind of how my mic works, but you can buy one of these bad boys right now, but only for the next 10 days, because on October 31st, they're gone forever. So if you want to get yourself one, better do it now. And it also comes in hoodies, sweatshirts, mouse pads, hats, and some other shit. So get on it. Anyway, back to the witch that was just recently in front of us. I'm not a particularly religious person. I do know, however, that when it comes to the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill does not apply to animals. That is about your fellow man, your fellow human being. So no, they're not hypocritical for that at all, actually, because the Bible actually makes it quite abundantly clear that you are allowed to consume animals. In fact, God wants you to. And so no, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, have you actually read the Bible? Have you read the Bible? I'm assuming not. And despite that, people have corrected her on this a million times, saying that this isn't about animals, blah, blah, blah. But she keeps running with it because, you know, I know this isn't a true thing, but people say that the definition of insanity is, you know, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. I mean, this is basically what's happening, right? And she is insane. So maybe that definition of insanity might actually be true, you know, might actually carry some water. I don't know. But it's the same old song and dance. I've heard this question asked and this response from her every single time, and it's wrong every single time. But she doesn't care because she's a lunatic, doesn't actually care about animals, and is doing nothing to help them. Which is why we are going to do the opposite and actually do shit to help these animals.
Card number 4. Carnists say, "But if being vegan is about food, why do you keep trying to make me feel guilty by talking about how animals feel?"
Okay, I'm not even gonna let her answer this because I don't think this is a question anybody has ever asked her. The vast majority of people know that veganism, quote unquote, isn't about food. She made this up because she likes to believe people think that. And I know because she said it so many times. She's like, oh yeah, veganism's not about what you eat. It has nothing to do with food, even though it does. Even though it does. It's such a dumb, paradoxical statement to say veganism has nothing to do with food, yet you need to have a certain diet to be vegan. Like it doesn't make sense. I mean, the vast majority of things these lunatics say makes no sense. So I'm honestly just speaking redundant statements at this point. I'm sorry about that. Let me address this though, slightly. Wow, actually, no, I really don't have anything to say. She's just a dumbass. Let's keep going.
Grass all day? Vegans respond,
I kind of skipped that over a little bit, but what do you want me to do? Just eat grass all day? Now, if anybody asks this question, it's not a serious question. They are definitely trolling you. Nobody expects anybody to actually eat grass all day. That would be silly, which I'm sure is her response to this. So once again, I really don't have anything to say. This seems like a really stupid question to respond to because it's not a serious one. It's obviously a joke and you just trolled yourself by responding to a troll. Again, what a dumbass. All right, here we go. Here we got a juicy one.
Carnists say, "But won't I die if I don't eat animals? Isn't that the only place protein comes from?"
Okay, hold on.
Vegans.
I'll give her a second to answer a little bit, but are you serious? You put that part there. You're trying to make people sound stupid. Trying to make people sound as dumb as you are. Most people do not think that protein only comes from animals. Come on, do better than that.
Respond, "No, you won't die.
You
In
might.
fact, you will thrive."
Not
Did
true.
you ever wonder how giraffes get so tall and elephants get so strong even though they...
This is propaganda. This is propaganda. This is propaganda. Let's talk about it, people. So she starts off earlier on in the video. You guys remember I think it's the first question where she's like, "Oh yeah, eat meat, blah blah blah. We're not lions, right? We're not giraffes. We're not giraffes. I'm gonna use your same logic against you. We are not giraffes." But I actually have a scientific argument for why this actually matters. Just as I had a scientific evolutionary argument the first time, but let's talk about this, okay? Giraffes are actually herbivores, right? their bodies, their digestive system, their stomachs, everything is designed completely different than ours. They are able to thrive on just eating goddamn leaves. First off, she was just talking about how you're not supposed to just eat grass, and she lists a bunch of things like lentils, beans, lots of fruits and vegetables, rice, pastas, all this different stuff she lists that we're supposed to eat. She says you're not supposed to just eat grass. Fucking giraffes can get by on just eating leaves. We can't, and there are fundamental differences between our biology and theirs. Just how there's fundamental differences between our biology from one person to another human being, which is why not everyone and not even most people can be vegan. And some people can thrive on a vegan diet. That is true. Some, not most, and definitely not all. But yes, a giraffe's digestive system is designed to be able to take things like plants, fibers, etc., and actually turn it into usable energy. The fact that like a cow, for instance, can eat pretty much nothing but grass and convert that into milk, which actually has like proteins and stuff, is crazy, right? It's because their digestive system is different. It is designed to actually convert fibers and things that we normally can't even use at all, and actually turn it into something that provides nourishment for the cow or for the giraffe or for an elephant. And even then, like a cow, for instance, if they're lacking a certain nutrient or, something isn't abundant or available to them, through their traditional means, they might actually chow down on an animal to actually get more protein if they need to. So there really are no like true herbivores, So it's such a dumb response to say that, oh, well, giraffes are so strong, right? That means we can be too by just eating lettuce or eating leaves, etc. It's not true. Many people cannot take nutrients from plants and convert them and use them the same way that some people who thrive on vegan diets can. If you have an incredible metabolism and no issues converting nutrients, then yeah, you can be vegan. Some of us aren't that fortunate. Now, my wife and I, we do pretty well on like high plant diets. I've gone vegetarian before, and one might argue that I possibly just wasn't having enough varied foods. I was missing out on things, but I was not doing great health-wise as a vegetarian. I'm also diabetic now, and so veganism would be a danger to me. It is very, very helpful to have consistent low-carb meats and things like that and proteins in my diet. And my wife does pretty darn well on high plant diets as well. We don't eat a lot of meat. We eat meat about 4 or 5 times a week, but only for one meal each of those times. And then we have 2 either completely vegetarian or vegan days, just depending on what we're eating those days, every single week. And I think that sort of thing is possible for some people. I don't think that's possible for most. I think the amount of meat that we consume, the small amounts of it, would be a great goal for some people who do want to reduce the amount of meat they consume. I just don't think it's necessarily realistic for everyone. I think most people probably should consume meat almost every day. And if they have it for right now, if it's 3 meals and they come down to 2, like that's a big improvement. If it's, they reduce it by 50%, that's a big improvement. It's all about doing what you can relative to what you consume. And also, like vegan athletes and stuff like that, you can have, I've seen some very, very prominent vegan athletes who are quite impressive. Most of their lives they weren't vegan, however. Most of them got to their physical physique by not being vegan. Veganism often came later, so it's not really a driving factor in their performance. I imagine it would be quite difficult to excel as an athlete, especially in like middle school, high school, things like that, while being vegan. I imagine that could be extremely difficult unless you just have incredible genetics. Despite the fact that I ate meat and got good amount of protein, I had problems with injuries because of lack of nutrients. Because again, my family was very poor, so I didn't get to eat as much as I should have been eating. I was very skinny, and I was like, at some point I was like 5'8" and only like 110 pounds sort of thing, in high school. But because, of putting on weight and trying to eat as much as I possibly could, I got my weight up, got my physical ability up, and I was a formidable athlete by my sophomore year, junior year, senior year in high school. I guess it's time to talk about Bella.
Sick and die.
Your dog
Vegans
can't be vegan.
respond.
She's going to get sick and die.
No, she won't. According to Professor Knight from the University of Winchester, The healthiest dietary choice for dogs are nutritionally sound vegan diets.
Yes, one deranged lunatic said that. In fact, studies have actually shown, so first off, let me talk about it. I've addressed this before, and there are some very small studies that have like sample sizes of like 2 or 3 dogs, for instance, that say things like this. And they also mention the caveat that the data is not conclusive because it's such a small sample size. Now, the studies that actually have much larger sample sizes, ones that actually do kind of have like a impactful data, though again it's still not even enough, they actually suggest that the healthiest thing for a dog is, unsurprisingly, the healthiest thing for a facultative carnivore is a meat heavy raw diet. Actually is actually shown trends of that being the best, and veganism not at all. There are some like good things about like a quote unquote vegan diet for a dog, and in some cases you're taking away from certain byproducts that could be dangerous in traditional kibble. But what you would actually want to do if you were just going to feed your dog like kibble, you would just go for the highest quality, highest grade stuff you can get that has the best concentration of good meat products in it. That triumphs over a vegan diet any day. And raw meats or whole meat diets, etc., are even better. So what she's saying here is just an absolute lie. She cherry picked a study which had like 3 or 4 dogs or something like that, and it was over a time span of like 2 weeks. I'm not even lying to you, by the way. I actually had a video where I talked about pretty much all of these studies in one place. Don't remember what that video is called, so if you go looking for it, I'm sorry, you might have a hard time. But yeah, she's just lying, which sucks, but that's what she does. And it's so sad to see that the one movement that really exists right now to like quote unquote help animals, they bank on lying, misinformation, manipulation, and all of these disingenuous tactics to try to guilt people or lie to people or manipulate people into becoming vegan. It's sad. It's sad. And that's another reason why I think it's so important that there needs to actually be some real movement out there, that it's not just about the diets or anything like that. It really is about like helping animals and doing what you can to actually have an impact. I think more people will be willing to get behind, reducing their meat consumption, especially if you do bring in things like red meat, especially, which has in fact increase the risk of cancer for many individuals, not directly, but as a result of like higher cholesterol and things like that, for artery damage. There's a whole list of things I've talked about in the past and I'll continue to talk about in the future. She has one more question though. Let's address it.
Meatheads say, card number 8. Carnists say, you're not real vegans because you use cell phones, which are often made by exploited humans who are also a kind of animal. Vegans respond, vegans are against all forms of slavery. This is why, when there are vegan options, vegans choose them. Like you, vegans have a right to live, work, and function in society. Carnists who point at phones to try to discredit vegans engage in something called the nirvana fallacy, which occurs when meat eaters don't even bother trying to do the right thing, just because they can't be perfect.
Oh my God, cope harder. Cope harder. No, they got you in a check, man. This is a royal flush. You're done for. They GG'd your ass. Like, no, this is actually such a good point. It's such a good point. Her response to it is, well, we have the right to do things like you do too, to live and everything else and function in society like you do. Shut the fuck up, okay? Be consistent in your logic, or stop trying to have this ridiculous movement that is based in morality and ethics when you can't even stand on your own morality and ethics. Good attempt trying to address this question. It's a question that's not addressed enough, let's be honest, because they don't have a good answer. I mean, this goes far beyond like their cell phones, etc. And it also goes far beyond the human exploitation. And what it really comes back to as well is also the animal exploitation, the house you live on. Imagine how many squirrels and chipmunks and little rodents and other animals were evicted for your home to exist, from the trees that were cut down, from the land that was decimated, destroyed, for your house to be placed on, for the ground to be uprooted, for literally all of this, animals dying left and right, just for you to have a home, for you to have electricity, for you to have a car, for you to have most things in your life. And there's always animal exploitation. And this is not the nirvana fallacy where she just goes, well, actually, you're just trying to put blame on me for not being perfect. Like, no, fuck you. We need to be real and honest with ourselves here. And this is such a good reality check for you in understanding that veganism is not realistic. Think about it. If all of these things require exploitation of animals or humans and they're not even food related, just tackling the food related thing doesn't fix the problem. These animals continue to be exploited, according to you. There is no winning for vegans. There is none. There is no winning for the veganism movement. There is no future where veganism does anything to change the outlook of how animals are treated, how animals are produced in these industries. Nothing of the sort. But it's possible that maybe we could come up with something, a solution, a movement. It's going to be hard. And if you made it this far in this video and you want to help spread the message, share this video, subscribe, like it, comment, whatever, try to get it out there. See you guys next time.